When I was a young man, I was very lucky to have summer jobs with the U.S. Forest Service. And every summer I would work in a different forest. I worked in Idaho and Oregon and Colorado and Alaska, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And I ended up in the Tongass National Forest in southeast Alaska, where I was working on timber inventory crews. The Forest Service would send our four-man crew out to a camp in a remote location in the islands, and we would spend a 10-day stint surveying timber. We'd spend our days tramping through the woods, measuring trees, and it was hard work, it was brushy, it was wet, but we loved the work. And at the end of our 10-day shift, we would come back to town, and we'd spend 4 days there. They put us up in a Forest Service trailer, which was pretty bare and neglected and really didn't have anything to do. It was a small town. There wasn't much going on. And so sort of naturally, we all gravitated to the harbor bar. And we'd go to the bar, and we'd meet our friends from other Forest Service crews who had also finished their 10-day stint. And we were all gathered there to sort of compare notes and see what was happening with everybody. And I remember sitting down at a table in the warm, dusky bar, and elbow to elbow with my good friends and having a cold one. And the more I drank, naturally, the more brilliant and outgoing and animated I became, just like everyone else around the table. Maybe you've been there, I don't know. And so we would share all the adventures of the last 10 days, and everyone tried to outdo everyone else. So you fix the outboard motor at the last minute. Big deal, I could have done that. That's nothing, you fool. You should have seen me when the bear came into camp. Oh, that's nothing. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a city boy, and on and on. For some reason, we all felt like we had to be competitive with each other. I guess it was just the sort of competitive energy of young, immature males to have to always one-up the other guy and put the other guy down. And I did it just like all the other guys because, I wanted to be part of the group. And now that I look back on it, I wonder, why did we have to be so competitive? Why did we have to have this compulsion to tear each other down? And why do people seem to have a need to build themselves up by dragging somebody else down? Well, in our gospel lesson today, Jesus tells a parable about two men praying in the temple in Jerusalem. They're in the holy place, the house of God, and one of them is a Pharisee who goes out into the middle of the courtyard and stands there by himself so that everyone can see him. And he stretches out his arms and he prays out loud so everybody can hear him. He says, "Oh Lord, I thank you that I'm not like other people, thieves, rogues, and adulterers, or even like that tax collector over there. I fast twice a week and give 1/10 of all my income to the temple." You can just see the self-righteousness oozing out of him. He has this need, for some reason, to show everyone how righteous he is. He actually thanks God for himself. I thank you, God, for me, that I'm so perfect. Talk about self-centered. Now, I get it that his actions are righteous. I'll give him credit for fasting twice a week and for giving 1/10 of all his income. Those are good things. But why does he have to brag about it in the temple so everyone can hear? Makes you wonder if he's just doing it for the outward show. And why does he have to put other people down in order to make himself look better? Oh God, I thank you, I'm not like other people, thieves, rogues, and adulterers, which is a pretty low bar. And he especially has to criticize the tax collector over in the corner. I'm glad I'm not like that tax collector. You can just hear him spitting the words out. Somebody else has to feel bad so he can feel good about himself. And meanwhile, in the corner, the tax collector doesn't even look up to heaven. He beats his chest and he says, Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner. And Jesus says, I tell you, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Well, what was the difference between these two men? I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's a matter of self-awareness. The Pharisee, bragging about how self-righteous he was, had no sense of self-awareness. He had no way to step outside of himself and question himself. I'm righteous, I fast twice a week and tithe 10%. Oh, really? And that makes you perfect? And that makes you better than everyone else? Maybe you should dig a little deeper than that. The tax collector, on the other hand, has some self-awareness. When he looks at himself, he realizes his faults. I'm not perfect. I do the best I can, but I'm not perfect. So God have mercy on me, a sinner. Self-awareness is the ability to look in the mirror and reflect on what we're doing. It's the practice of self-reflection. Was I really being honest in that conversation last night? What was my real motivation in buying that new car? And where is my anger coming from? As we probe our inner thoughts and our inner being, then we become more and more self-aware of what's really going on. More honest with ourselves. It is so easy for us to fool ourselves. It is so easy for us to convince ourselves that we're right, that we're righteous. But an ounce of self-awareness cures a pound of vanity. If we're going to be genuine human beings, we have to have some self-awareness. And if anybody needs to have self-awareness and self-reflection, it's our leaders. Because our leaders are scrutinized by everyone. And they need to be people of some self-awareness who can take responsibility for their actions and have accountability to other people. To me, Jesus of Nazareth was the most genuine human being who ever walked the earth. There was no gap between his outer being and his inner being. His heart and his mind and his soul were all in alignment. There was nothing false in him. And that quality drew some people to him like a magnet. And it also repulsed some people who couldn't stand to be in his light. Well, I am glad to say that I eventually stopped going to the Harbor Bar, and I stopped my binge drinking. I got married to Katie, I had 2 sons, realized I had to become accountable to someone, and I had to grow up a little bit. And I had to reflect on my actions and my motivations, and over time, a long period of time, I began a period of growth. All who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all who humble themselves shall be exalted.